Okay, here we go. All right, so today is super special for me because I have been wanting to interview Rowena Yeager for a very long time, and I get her all to myself today because Sean is actually in a meeting during this time. So I said, okay, good. I get her all to myself then. So
Yeah, and as
thank
I
you,
zoom
Rowena.
near and far, yeah. Well,
Yes,
it
and
is a
if you see her zooming in and out, she's doing the Sesame Street character of near and far. So that'll give you a good
yeah,
giggle if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, because we do the full episodes on our YouTube channel, and then our podcast episodes are just a small insert that my editor decides, and I let my editor pick and choose what they want on these podcasts. So it's pretty awesome because as soon as they pick, I'm like, you know what? They picked the best part of this whole podcast. But if you want to watch the whole episode, definitely jump over to our YouTube page, Next Level Salon Leadership. So Rowena, thank you for being on the podcast today.
thank you for having me. I am super excited to be here as well. You know, it's been a long time since a lot of us have been able to connect in person, but Zoom has so much brought people together that wouldn't normally get together. So I am thrilled to be here and be in your presence via Zoom. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know. It's just amazing because now, of course, Zoom is so much better than it was in the beginning. And it's just so amazing. You feel like you're actually with the people, and it's so awesome. So Rowena is the founder and creator of Opportunities in RY Coaching. She's a life and a business coach. She's been a salon owner for 21 years. Yes, you heard it right, 21 years. And most recently, she owns a salon and spa in Twinsburg, Ohio. And get this, she's been awarded for the past 16 years as a top 200 salon in Salon Today magazine. And I definitely want to jump into that because you're definitely my biggest mentor in that, Rowena, and I want to hear how you've done that. But I do love the idea that you have with your salon and spa, that you're a luxury skincare with emphasis on relaxation and mental health. And how timely is that you've put that in there? And I want to hear, how you've done that and why you've done that. But before we do that, I do want to hear a little bit about you, Rowena, how you've kind of gotten to this place where you are now. What's your journey been like?
Oh, wow. Well, there's obviously a lot to it, so I'll give you the short version of it for sure. I have been a salon owner for 21 years. I graduated from cosmetology school in 87, so that would make the let's see, hairdresser. Where would I fall into that? Is that like
Long
36,
time. We call that long
37,
time.
30? Yeah, so it's past 35. I know that. So I didn't know for sure if I really ever wanted to own a salon. And my father actually was an instigator in that. And he kept saying, hey, if you ever want to open a salon, you just let me know. I will help you financially. I'll help you back it, and we'll make that magic happen. And so through the years, one of the things that I kept saying was, I'm not going to open a salon because you know what? I kind of think that if I was going to, I'd have to have a really cool name. And if I had a really cool name that I came up with, then maybe I would consider opening a salon. And, that may sound kind of goofy to some, but that was just something that I threw out there into the universe, and it bounced back at me one day. A friend of mine and I had gone downtown to Cleveland, where there used to be a club that was called Wish. And when we went in, we were sitting down at one of the tables, and I picked up one of their matchbooks, and it had a really cool branding on it with the word Wish, and it actually made the W look like a pitchfork. So it was kind of a play on good and evil. And so I kind of went, oh, that's really cool. I said, Wish would be a really cool name for a salon. And then my girlfriend looked at me and she went, wait a minute, did you just come up with a name for a salon? I go, no. I go, it doesn't work. And so she said, well, what if you called it like Wish Hairs or Wish Hers? And so long story short on that, finally settled on Studio Wish. And originally it was Studio Wish Hair Color Cafe. And we focused on doing primarily hair color, corrective color, anything that was centered around color, because color was really hot in the early 2000s, because this was 2001 when we had opened. And so corrective color was obviously a really big thing then too. So we focused a lot on color. And what we started finding out was people would come in and they would say that they would schedule for their color, and then they would say, you know, they were going somewhere else to get their hair cut. And I'm like, well, why are you going somewhere else to get your hair cut? Well, like, oh, we thought you only did color. So I
Mm.
started early on realizing how important branding is to your business.
Mhm.
And a friend of mine had actually pointed out when I wanted to name my salon Studio Wish that if you didn't put something on there that said you did hair, people are going to look at it and say, well, if you're just a studio, then are you photography? Are you painting? You know, what's the studio mean? So we changed it and we did Studio Wish Salon when we moved
Mhm.
into Twinsburg, which was about 10 years after we had opened. And so when we changed it to Studio Wish Salon, made a huge difference. And we had changed it in some of our branding prior, but we didn't change it in our lit sign in our old location because, you know, it's a huge expense to change your lit sign. So on our website and everything else, we had changed it to Studio Wish Salon. Now, moving forward into our new location, it's Studio Wish Salon Spa without the word and. And when I started thinking about how it visually was going to look together, and then B, throwing another word in there, even though it was a small word or the and symbol, I thought, do I want it to be an and where it's more cohesive, more like something that's put together, or do I want it to be cohesive, like it's an all-in-one? So
Mhm.
when I thought about it, I thought, you know, I really want it to be just salon spa. So that's what we did. It's Studio Wish Salon Spa. And actually our lit sign is going to be going up in about 3 weeks. So our lit sign isn't even up yet because our permits and everything to get it done took a really long time because they were really backed up in our city with that. So
Sounds common in all the cities
yes,
lately.
yes,
That's
yes. So that's
hilarious.
kind of a, yeah, so that's kind of a short version of like salon life and business life of where we caught up to now and how we went from a salon to a spa. Now, we're still in the same plaza that we were in. We were in a really unique situation, and I've learned a lot about leases in the last 21 years, and I've signed several leases. And so in our plaza, our landlord wanted our space. And actually, I should say that another tenant wanted our space. And that's actually a beautiful situation to be in because when your landlord wants to move you, there's a financial obligation that they need to help you move.
Mhm.
So I ended up getting pretty much my dream salon, dream spa out of the whole deal. And it has been absolutely amazing. Our clients love it. Our team loves it. And like I said, I love going to work every day. I love getting up. I love getting ready for work. I love doing my hair. I love doing my makeup. I love getting in my car in the 20-minute drive that I have there. So I think it's important to always love what you do, because if you're not loving what you do, it's time to switch and change it up and do something else.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. Well, I definitely want to hear some advice that you would give people about signing leases. I definitely want to hear that because I think that's
Absolutely.
very timely right now. Before we do that and jump into all the other things that I have questions for you, I would love to hear, you know, one of the things that people ask me, I think, especially as a woman, and I'm sure you hear this as well, you know, Tina, Rowena, how do you keep balance between your home life and your professional life? And so whenever someone asks me to do a keynote, it's always about balance, right? And so I bet that
Absolutely.
happens to you too. I'd
It
love to
does.
hear, how do you do that with balance? How do you balance?
Tina, it's a great question. And I think it's a very important question because my belief is that everybody's balance is different. But
Mhm.
when we as human beings think about the word balance, we picture a scale and something that's actually balanced in 50-50 and it's even. My belief is that we go through ebbs and flows and shifts and changes, and you know, we get things thrown in our life like that C word that we're not allowed to mention anymore, by the way. And you know, when things get thrown into our life, all of a sudden you feel like your scales have been thrown off, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so whatever your scale is for what that balance looks like, I feel balancing home and business has to be whatever fits for you. In that, I do think it's important to know, what's my schedule? What does my schedule look like? And the actual looking at a calendar of, what am I going to do today? You know, what am I going to do when I get up in the morning? I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do my clubhouse. Then I'm going to do my webinar with Tina. Then I have a coaching call later at 1 o'clock. Then I've got to do payroll. You know, knowing what you've got in your day, I think visually gives us a balance. I think God gave us every single sense that we have for the reason to be able to use it. So our eyesight, our ears, our speech, you know, everything that we've been given as a gift is something we should use to create what is our balance within our life. So for me, having balance in my life is making sure that I'm spending quality time with my husband, making sure I spend quality time with my team. And what does that look like? You know, not just showing up and being present, it's like being present with them. And my belief is that we should, as human beings, always meet people where they're at. The people that are closest to us are the ones that are going to be the most honest with us about how they feel. And then in turn, we're going to end up being the most honest with them about how we feel. And there's times where somebody might have a challenge with what your schedule is and what you're doing for them. And I think that those are the times where if you're getting thrown something that you need to pay attention to, you need to stop, you need to listen, and you need to allow yourself to hear and listen and understand where that person is at and where they're coming from, because ultimately life is about relationships. And the relationships that we have with others is a direct reflection of the relationship we have with ourselves. So example in that would be the relationship that I have with myself starts every morning. Well, actually, it doesn't have a start and a stop to it. It's always there. So, you know, we have that voice in our head that tells us what to think, tells us where we're at, tells us what we're good at, tells us what we're not good at. And so listening to ourselves and having that relationship with self will make a huge difference on our relationships with others and what that balance looks like between our personal life and our business life. I feel that if my personal life is doing great, that my relationship with my husband and my children is going great, that my business life, when that is going great and everything is smooth and everything is feeling balanced, that it's a good place to be. However, I do think there's a point in time that we can get too comfortable when it comes to business and our relationships. And you don't want to be stagnant. So in those times where things feel like they're smooth, we should be in our creative mode. We should be creating our what's next, creating our next marketing pieces, creating what's going to be our next event for our team. You know, being in that creative mode, I think, is really important when we have a business. And as you know, salon industry wise, we are a makeup of very creative people. So utilize that creativity when you have the opportunity so that you can keep that feel and that sense of whatever your balance is, whatever that looks like. But always remember, it does not have to be 50-50.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love the fact that you said when your relationship at home is good, it's always great at work too. And I always tell people you can't act a fool at home and not expect that you're not going to, act a fool in the workplace, because you are. And so what do you do in those moments and those times when you are struggling? Because I mean, we're human beings, we're not human doing. So we're going to have challenges, of course, at home. So what do you do? Like, how do you navigate that, Rowena? And how have you navigated that in the past? And what advice do you want to give salon owners to that, especially that are married and do have children or partners?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, again, listening and
Yeah.
being in that communication mode. And sometimes that communication mode is literally sitting silent and just staring in your partner's eyes, because how often do we take the opportunity to just stop and have silence and just be with that person and look into their eyes? And, having that good communication at home means that I'm having good communication with myself, means that I'm having good communication with my team and with my children. And I think that there are times, and there have been times in my own personal life that I've heard this before, you got to put on your personal hat and then you got to put on your business hat. there's a mesh of both. And I think the other piece of that I have heard many, many times, I don't hear it as much now, which I think is good, is that you can't run your business with your heart. You have to run your business with your head. And I remember hearing that years ago going, oh,
Mm.
does that mean my business? And this is when I was an employee, by the way. I actually thought, does that mean that my employee only cares about the business and the finance part of it and they don't care about me? Now, if I thought about that as an employee, 22-ish years ago, then what does that mean for today? My thought is that everything about us is connected. Our heart, our
Mhm.
minds, our heads, our gut, what we fuel our bodies with. This vessel is important in so many ways, and I have to make sure that I'm maintaining and taking care of it. So in taking care of that, I have to take care of self. And taking care of yourself first means that you can take care of others. So that being said, I am not a mom at home and not a business owner, and I am not a wife, and I am not a business owner at work, but not a wife and a mother.
Mhm.
I am who I am, and I'm not separate. So I think that running your business with your heart and your mind is essential because they're not separate. You
Right.
have to have a heart in order to run a business. And if you have a business, make sure you have heart that you're putting into it and that you're also sharing and giving to others. So that would be my best advice, is make sure you take care of you, take care of your heart, because you got to take care of you before you can take care of others.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that. Even sometimes it's even for me, like maybe just go get a facial, or I'm speaking spa language to you, of course,
Yeah.
or a manicure or a pedicure, and going through that process of like, okay, I just got to take care of myself, go to the gym, eat something healthy, and then all of a sudden I can give to my spouse and to the people I work with. Something I love that you said about communication. I'd like to hear at least one communication like strategy that you use. So for instance, we're doing the SWOT analysis. So when I coach salon owners at the beginning of the year, especially, I'll sit down with them. Let's go over your strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And we're doing it with our team as well, too. And I love that you said stay in creative flow, because that keeps us in creative flow, because we came up with some really cool ideas for our salon by going through this. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, what if you did this with your spouse? How cool would that be? Or with your family? Like when our kids were younger, we called it building our family brand. And what does that look like? Like, what do we want to be known for in our family? What do we want people to know us for? And could you imagine doing a SWOT analysis with your family, get your kids together, right? And go through that every single year. What kind of communication strategies do you use at home and in work?
It's actually one question that I feel is one of the most important things that you can ask either your spouse, your children, your significant other, or a team member when you're doing a one-on-one or coaching them up, or wherever you're in your communication, is what's the most important thing we need to talk about today? Because
Yeah.
if I have an agenda of what I feel we need to talk about, I may miss that
Mhm.
communication piece that person is very much so wanting to communicate to me, or excited to communicate to me, or scared to communicate to me. And I think that when we throw that out there and be extremely transparent and extremely open and say, what's the most important thing that we need to talk about today? To me, that sets the tone for what is our communication going to be like today. And then after that, I feel that when you are listening to whatever it is that they're sharing, then go from there to ask the right questions to find out what is it that we need to do from here. So let's say, for example, somebody shares with you that they don't feel they're busy enough behind the chair.
Mhm.
And so, I want to know how I can get busier behind the chair. What can I do? They're actually searching for ideas and help for how you can help them. And so I might not know that that's one of their biggest concerns. I may be looking at their schedule going, dang, they're busy. They're so booked. Look at
Mhm.
their numbers compared to this year, compared to last year. Business numbers this year compared to last year could go up because you did price increases. So they may be making more money, but they may not feel as busy. And if that's how they're feeling, we can't negate it. We have to listen to what's going on with them. So I feel that then what you do is you ask questions from that point on of, okay, so where do you think we should take the opportunity to look for? And it goes back to that SWOT analysis. Where's the opportunity that we could help you get busier? You know? And obviously they're going to say, well, maybe if I took a look at my book from several months ago, I could see, are there people that I'm missing? Or let's say we start doing more looking for new clients. Let's say it's a new client situation. It's a newer stylist behind the chair. How can you help them? So I think listening and asking the right questions is definitely key. When it comes to home life, I think asking that same question is great. So if I sit down with my husband at dinner and we're both sitting there and off our phones, by the way, and say, okay, so what's the most important thing we should talk about at dinner? I don't think he's going to bring up business. Let's just say that. It may be, well, when's our next vacation? You know, what are we going to do this weekend? What do you want for your birthday? What do you want to do for your birthday? You know, it could open up all kinds of things that he may have on his mind that I may not know. And it gives me the opportunity to listen.
I love that so much. It goes back to that really good, solid listening skills and looking for what they're not saying. What are they not saying right now? And I make it a little bit of a game for myself, especially when I am doing one-on-ones with my team. You know, what are they not saying? Like I hear something in there, but they're kind of not feeling safe right now in this moment to share that with me. And so the questions will draw that out eventually. And they're probably like, man, you got me, like you got me, you know, and I love that so much because it's about getting their heart. It goes back to what you said, you know, it's about heart, soul, and mind. It's all together. And, you know, we always talk about, we want to be holy leaders, meaning WHOLLY, whole leaders. Like you can't just leave your soul at home, you know, so this is so good. Let's back up a minute because I don't want to forget this question. What
Before
advice?
you do that, I'm going to plug in my laptop because it just blinked at me and said
Oh,
that I'm
got
ready to
it.
go. And I don't
Yes.
want it to die during this. So hold on one
Yes,
second.
let's not let it die for sure. Plug that baby in. I know this is so funny when we do these live webinars / podcasts and we're all like, oh, let's go ahead and figure out how we need to, what kind of things that we need to do to change to make sure our pop-ups aren't coming, that
Right.
we're plugged in. I know all these quick reminders, the checklist, right?
Absolutely.
I love it. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about for owners, because I do want to talk about how you made it in for the past 16 years as a top 200 salon, because people are going to want to hear your secret, so to speak, right? So we want to hear about that. But talk to owners about leases, because what are some of the things that are some blind spots do you think that owners don't see when it comes to signing a lease?
Oh, that's a great question. So we'll dive into the leases a little bit, and I'll tap into the ones that are popping into my head immediately. Exclusivities, I think, is a very important thing to think about when you are doing a lease. And exclusivity means that you have exclusivity of a service that cannot be done by another business in your plaza or in the building or wherever it is that you're located. So I think exclusivities are very important. There's another thing that's popping into my head and I cannot remember what it is called, and it does have a name, but you'll know what I'm talking about. There is always a date in your lease that is before the end date of your lease that you've got an opportunity to renegotiate your lease. Or if you have done and this is the other word that's not popping into my head at the moment, but when you do a additional lease on top of your lease of what my next lease will look like, which you should do in a lease, that date that is before that is when you decide, are you going to go with what you decided 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever that was, or do you need to renegotiate that? If you miss that date, there's a lot of opportunities that you could miss, and you could actually lose your space too. And I've heard of salon owners that have lost their space because of not realizing how important that date is. I think the other there's so many things with leases. I think that you should ask for everything that pops into your mind, and don't say, they'll never agree to that. Or I don't
Mhm.
think that they'll agree to that. And I would also say, if you are working, and you should be working with a real estate attorney, if your real estate attorney says, you know what, you're asking for a bit too much, ask for it anyway, because you never know what
Mhm.
is going on in that lease, your leasing company's situation, that they may look at what you're asking and say, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Sure, we can do that. So I think that having a good relationship with your landlord is essential when you can. I hear people all the time, business owners all the time, that they're not happy with their landlord. They're not happy where
Mhm.
they're located. And, I feel very fortunate that the landlord that we do have, I like my landlord a lot. We get along great. I get along with their attorney very well. And their attorney gets along with my attorney really well. But I think at the end of the day, to remember that they're in it to make money, and you're in it to not overspend your money.
Right.
And when you both go into that kind of a conversation, very transparent, which the first time I sat down with my leasing company 11 years ago, well, actually, it would have been 12 years ago, and had a conversation with them about going into their space. The first thing he said to me is, he said, it's great to meet you, and I'm glad that you're a business owner of 10 years, but I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, I'm in this to make money. And he said, and I just want to be honest with you, at some point in time, your lease is going to go up. At some point in time, you're going to be paying for things that you might not understand. He said, but ask the questions you need to ask. But there's so many things that you can ask for in a lease that I think some people just do not realize that they could ask for. And it can be around your signage. It can be around the services that you can do. It can be around parking situations.
Mhm.
There's so many things. I've heard of establishments that have where they have to, their clientele has to pay to park to come in. And there are agreements that you can make with a leasing company, that your patrons, when they come in and they're parking, that they could get a break on their parking. And they may not know to ask for those kind of things. So I think that all of that tied together is important. Also to know, can you sublease? If you were to
Mhm.
sublease, what does that look like? Are you able to do um, liquor license in your business?
Mhm.
Are you able to sell anything that you want in your business? I mean, there's a lot of leases that can be very restricting for what you can sell, what you can do
Mhm.
within your walls. Are you responsible for the HVAC? Some people don't think
Right.
about that because it's on the outside of the building, and they think, oh, well, that's the landlord's responsibility. I'm only responsible for what's in my four walls. Well, that's not true. Are you responsible for trash pickup? Is there a
Mhm.
possibility that you can ask for your trash to be taken care of by them, that you're not paying for it? There's so many things that you can ask for in an agreement. If something happens to your plumbing, is that in your lease that they're taking care of it, or is that your responsibility? Because plumbing and electricity are the two most expensive things that we
Mhm.
put into a business when you're doing your first build out, and those will be your most expensive things besides your payroll. And going forward, or I should say, that the most important things to run your business as you move forward within your business, because you have to have electricity
Yep.
and you got to have water.
Yep. Yeah, I concur with you 100% on all of this. This is huge. I love it. And, one of the things that we did in the very beginning, my husband and I, because we always were in the school business. And when we got into the salon business, we were kind of out of our realm because it's a different, type of lease that you're signing for a school versus a salon. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
he actually met with several different salon owners like yourself and just ask some of those questions. And I remember sitting for hours, right, with different salon owners and getting advice from them. And so I'm so glad you brought this up, and what a great wealth of advice that you are, Rowena. Tell us how you made it the top 200 salons for 16 years. How'd you do it?
I love talking about this part. So, when I opened my business and started getting Salon Today magazine and saw that there was a Salon Today 200 award system that they had. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I want to be part of that. And originally I had also joined TSA, which is now known as PBA, which was the Salon Association, which is now the Professional Beauty Association. And so I started networking with salon owners early on in my career because I realized the powerful knowledge that was out there, that if I just opened my ears and listened to what other salon owners had been through, could be very helpful. The year that I opened was 1 month after 9/11. So I have no idea what it's like to have owned a business and been a business owner prior to 9/11, because I literally opened October 13th of that year. So opening exactly 1 month later, I was in a different mindset than somebody that would have had a business that could have suffered loss, similar to what we went through a couple years ago, right? So I think in looking at where you're at in your business and sharing those pieces is greatly important. And when I look at the Salon Today 200 and I go through and I read what everyone has shared and who has shared, I like networking with those business owners, because I think when you network with like-minded business owners, you develop a knowledge of wealth together. And if all the knowledge I have, I keep to myself, it has no value. So sharing that knowledge is important. And I saw the Salon Today 200 as a sharing of knowledge and being part of a bigger picture, that not only could I share knowledge, but I could also gain knowledge, which makes it a give, win-win. So in going through, and I know the one question that you had is, what's my big secret for how I have been recognized for so many times? I would say it isn't really a big secret necessarily. It's more or less that I am just transparent and open with whatever the question is that is in the essay, that's what I'm answering and that's what I'm moving forward with. And it used to be years ago that you had to have a percentage of growth to actually be part of the Salon Today 200. And I was always afraid that, well, what if I don't have growth? What if I don't? And then I can't be entered or I can't get into it. So I liked when they started breaking it up and putting it into different compartments or different departments of marketing or philanthropy or team building, leadership, having those different areas to be able to write essays, I think was really a great direction to take it. Because prior to that, you were writing essays for every single category. And it was a lot of work. It's still a lot of work to put it together and pull your numbers. But as my salon sisters would say, and Gail has said many times, what we love about it is that it gives us the opportunity to take a look back at your year and your previous year, because you're comparing one year to another year of what your growth was, and whether your growth was in discovering something new with your marketing that worked, or discovering something new that with your team or your team building strategies that work, or discovering something vulnerable about yourself and your leadership that you shifted and you changed. So to me, it's really taking what are the big pieces of your growth that you've had within your business that you can share that could help another salon owner, another salon spa owner.
Yeah, it's huge. And so what do you think is like that one or two things that allows you to keep winning year after year, being one of the top?
Well, I used to go into it with, oh my gosh, if I don't win this year, I'm going to curl up in a ball and cry. To if for some reason I wasn't recognized this year, it's okay, because that means someone else grew. Someone else grew and actually made it into the Salon Today 200 as well. And so, I love the fact that I do make it every year. And I've made it every year that I've applied. So let me make sure that I put that in there. There have been some years that I did not apply because there were things going on in my life. One year that I had lost my brother. And when I did, I kind of dove into a pretty dark place. And looking back on it, I can say that when I dove into that dark place, it wasn't just me. It took my business, it took my personal life, it took my relationship at home, and really kind of drug everything to the bottom. And so I didn't feel like doing any writing. I didn't want to enter any contest. I didn't want to even be traveling and going out seeing friends kind of thing. It was a really dark time for me. And so I haven't entered every single year. But the years that I have entered, I have been recognized. And I feel that for me, every year I want to up my game in what I'm sharing. What did I do differently? It helps keep me on my toes, I guess you could say, because I'm not going to do the same things last year, this year, and next year. I'm not going to do the same things next year that I'm doing this year. I might take some of those components and I might tweak them and make them better. And it doesn't mean I'm going to completely not do some of the things that I did before, but I do think we have to constantly be upping our game in every aspect of our business. And I think, and this has been a big talk on Clubhouse and webinars and listening to Gary V and a lot of the other Simon Sinek that's out there, is customer service is definitely going to be a number one piece that business owners in every type of a customer service business need to pay attention to, because I myself am very particular about where I'm going to go have dinner with my husband. Why? Because I want great customer service when I go there. And it may not have the best food, but it might have the best customer service that I'm going to. So I keep those things in mind, that I am coaching my team on what those pieces mean. But my team is my first and foremost client. My team is my client. So I need to make sure that I'm taking care of my team, which goes back to that one-on-one, my coach up time, asking them what's the most important thing we need to talk about today, keeping that open communication, because all of those pieces fit together so that I have something to share when I go to write my ST200 essays. And I do know that when Stacy's looking for things, when she's reading through these essays, is she's looking for these nuggets of what's different. What did you do different that you've never done before that worked? Or what set you apart? Or what philanthropy idea did you do that made a huge difference in your community or other people that are in your life? And so I think that, those are the kind of pieces that make a story for them to be able to tell, because it's a magazine, right? So it's a magazine that wants to share stories, wants to share information. So, they really want to see what are the big things that really put you up above, set you apart, made things different for you. So
yeah,
I
it's
hope that
huge.
answers your question.
This is so good. So I want to dive into this. I love that you said coach up time, by the way. You just slid that in. Is that your
Yes.
one-on-one time? What is that? Coach up
That is
time.
what we call our one-on-one time. I call it coaching up. And so
Very
it's
cool.
interesting when I'm interviewing somebody and talking about, who we are as a business. I think that it's important to be transparent in an interview. And so I share with people that I don't tend to fire people. People fire themselves. If you know what is expected, what the intentions are, what our values are, and you are striving to meet with us for that same common goal, then we will always be coaching up. But there may come a time where I'm coaching you out, and you're going to know the difference. So I call it coach up time, because that is what I do with my team, is that I'm coaching them up to that next level. But it always starts out with, what's the most important thing we need to talk about today?
Yeah, it's so good. It's always, I think of the grow or go conversations,
Exactly, for sure. Grow or go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. It's tough to have the tough conversations, isn't it? But sometimes that go is going to help them to grow too. And so I think that's just so important, as you walk through this. So speaking of grow or go, you're a coach. What are you coaching salon owners on right now? What do you see the biggest challenges that maybe salon owners aren't seeing themselves? What are their blind spots?
Themselves.
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
I feel that as a coach, the things that I am going to coach best to are every caveat, challenge, problem, failure that I have had. Those are the things that I'm going to be able to coach to the most. So if I have had a period of time where I've suffered loss in my life, like losing my brother, and in
Mhm.
thinking that it's not going to affect my business or it's not
Right.
going to affect my home life, that's not truth. It's a fallacy that we feel like we can just, hide under the covers and keep it a secret, and that everything's just going to still be floating as normal. And so I feel my place and my purpose as a coach is really to meet people where they're at,
Mhm.
see what their challenges are, what they believe their failures are, what they believe their opportunities for growth are, going back to that SWOT analysis. And then what are the things that we need to do to get to what you have as your greatest intentions? Because we can set goals all day long and keep setting goals and keep setting goals. But the challenge with setting goals is that it becomes a checklist. And
Mhm.
when we develop a checklist of goals, it's like, okay, boom, done, boom, done. But it needs to go back to our choices of intentions and what is the end result of the intentions of what you're creating and building on from that point. And it's great to reach a goal. It's great to have a number of what you want to do for the month or for the week or for the year, and celebrating it, I think, is hugely important. But knowing where you can grow, sometimes we can't see it. Sometimes we need someone else that's a coach to help us see what it is that's our roadblock. And all
Mhm.
of us, there isn't anyone out there that I've ever talked to that hasn't had at some point in time a roadblock of some sort that comes up that can't quite get through this. I don't know why I can't get through it, but I think I need somebody to help me with it. That being said, I think coaching for me is a very personal thing. I don't go seeking people to coach. And the reason that I don't do that is because I'm transparent in who I am as a coach. And if I put out there that I help coach people with loss, and that balance between loss and running a business and having a home life, and then trying to deal with what goes on up here, then I believe I can help someone. But it's like a marriage. It has to be a match. And coaching someone that's like walking through that fire with them. And if you try to coach to a fire you haven't walked through, I don't feel that a coach is going to be as effective. If I'm coaching someone that has lost a family member, lost friends, and I'm talking in very tragic ways, and been through tragedies in their life that has taken them down to the bottom of not wanting to live anymore, then those are the people that I help to coach too. Because there's nothing worse than feeling that elephant on your chest in the middle of the night and thinking you're alone and you can't do anything about it. And you start thinking your only way out is to take yourself out. And
Mhm.
I've been there. I know people that I have coached that have been there. And I feel that when we can meet people where they're at because we've been there, that's what truly is going to make the best coach. So, like I said, I don't seek like to coach a ton of
Mhm.
people. My thought is if there's someone out there that could benefit from what I have to help walk, because there's an actual 6-month program that I go through that has 12 calls that are very specific, that walks that person through their life. And every single time I have done this, it's different. Even though the questions are the same, the foundation of that call is the same. Every single time I have done it, it's that person's journey,
Mhm.
not a journey that I'm taking them on because I did this or I did that, or I was successful at this or I was successful for that. It's me walking on their journey of where they're at, and then helping them with the tools that they need to navigate through it, to get through those roadblocks so they're not always in front of them. And a perfect example of roadblocks in front of us, there's an exercise that I do when I'm coaching someone that literally with their eyes closed, creates windows of what they see of things that have blocked them as windows in front of them, or pictures in front of them, whatever those pictures may be. And they take them and they line those pictures up. And then after they're seeing all of them and talking about, they had this problem and this challenge and this loss, and this person did this to them and this person did that to them, and, car accident, or, they got hurt themselves, and they line all this up in front of them. And then I ask them to take their arm, put it in front of them, and literally move it to the back. And then I ask them, now, what do you see? And so when you look forward after you've taken all this stuff that's blocking you and you move it to the back, you can see anything. You can see everything. You see possibilities. And there's so many times that we walk through life with probability based on what we've experienced in the past, that it blocks where we can go with our possibilities. So I help to separate out what's the difference in probability versus possibility. And then let's decide, where do we want to go from there? What's the big pie in the sky dream of making that dream a reality, so that you are loving life every single day? Because if you're not loving where you're at in your business, you're not loving where you're at in your personal life, and you're not loving where you're at in all of your relationships, then that could be something that you need help coaching, And sometimes we don't realize that personal affects the business, but it really, really does.
Yeah. I love this conversation, because those roadblocks could just be past trauma that's undealt with. And so it's so important as a coach to be able to kind of like bring that to light. Like, this is the hope. This is the hope that you have, because we lose joy when we lose hope, And so you helping through that process, I think, is just so huge. And I love the fact that it's a 6-month program, 12 calls. It sounds like it's 12 steps, right? to get past your roadblocks, which I think is so cool. Which brings me to my next question. I know we're getting close to the end here. Is I love that you say that you're a luxury skincare with emphasis on relaxation and mental health. I think that's huge, and especially for today. Can you share why you have that and what that means in your salon business?
Oh my gosh, there's so many times that, like I mentioned earlier, that you've got that schedule, and I've got to get up and go to the gym, and then I've got my clubhouse call, and then I've got my call with Tina, and then I've got my coaching call later, and then I've got payroll, and then so you've got all of these things that are scheduled in. But what happens a lot of times is we forget to schedule in our personal time for just being with ourselves. And sometimes, depending on the person, it may be taking yourself out to dinner. It may be taking yourself out to a movie. It may be taking yourself and going for a walk in the park. I always encourage to try something different that you've not tried before, which I think is helpful as well. And so what we have found in our business is that because we've not had a spa before, we have a lot of clients that have never experienced a facial. And what I started hearing as they were coming out from their experience with their facials was, oh my gosh, I feel like Jello now. I feel so relaxed. I'm so glad I had this at the end of the day versus at the beginning of the day, or I had this on my day off versus a work day. And I started realizing that we really, when we touch someone, our power of touch is so valuable. And I know as a hairdresser what that looks like and what that means. But when it comes to skincare, being in a room where you're playing spa music and you've got your eyes closed, you've got the steam across your face, and you have that quiet time in your head while someone's actually touching you. There's also the chakras that we have in our body. And when somebody is working on your head and in your crown area, and they're pulling out any of that from your day, and just kind of releasing it, it brings you to a place of calm it brings you to a place
Mhm.
of peace. And I think that we need to really take into account how powerful our touch really is. And if in that service, that person needs to talk, that you're there and you're open for them. If in that service you're there and that person wants to be quiet, let them be quiet. And I think that transcends to the styling chair as well. Because the other piece that I don't know if you know this or not is when we built our new location, we built it with 3 different styling rooms.
Mm.
So 2 of the styling rooms have 6 stations in them. And one of the styling rooms has 3 stations in it. And there's actually a secret passageway that goes between them where we keep like all of our styling products that we use at our stations and our sanitizers for our implements and things like that. And when we designed it, originally one of my thoughts was to be able to play individualized music for each client. And what I ended up with was developing rooms that we could play different music in for different reasons. And so we've got a platform to be able to do a different feel in each room. So what we did was in the 3rd room, we made that more of our Zen spa room.
Mhm.
So that if we have a client that she doesn't want to be around other people, she's going through a bad day, my stylists can go in there. They can take that station, one of those 3 stations, and we can control the lights in all of the rooms too. There's 2 light switches in each room, and there's 2 sets of lights that we can control. So you can dim the lights even. So if somebody has vertigo, somebody's
Mhm.
having a problem with sensory disorder
Yeah.
and they don't like being around noise or loud noises. I have a client that she cannot stand loud music. Now, loud music to her is like a normal level to us. So to
Mhm.
her, it's like having music that's like beat, 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 beat. She can't do it. So having her in this other room where it's quieter, it's calmer, or I just change the music in the room that I'm in because I can hook it up to my phone. I can hook it up to an iPad. I can hook it up to another source. And so we can play a different source music in each of the rooms, including the spa. And then our spa actually has a soundproof wall that separates it, and there's separate opening to that, the separate doorway that goes back into that area. So you cannot hear the salon in the spa. That was one of my criteria when we
Wow.
decided to open an actual spa. I said years ago, I did not want to have a salon that happened to have a spa room. If I was going to open a spa, it needed to be an actual spa
Mhm.
in separate. And it is completely separate. It has its own waiting room, and we have 3 treatment rooms in there. It also has its own bathroom with a shower in that room because we wanted that space to literally feel like a quiet, uh, different, relaxed atmosphere that's literally walking into another world. Has completely different colors in there than the rest of the salon too.
I love this so much because there is so much power in music for your mental health. Even when I first go to the gym, I have my headphone on and I am listening to quiet, focused music at that point in time. Like it is not like loud because I just need to like wake up slow when I'm in the gym, 5
Well, and
a.m.
have you ever put your headphones on at the gym and just didn't turn music on too
Oh, all the
and
time.
had it silent? I
Yep. It's
love doing that, and
silent.
sometimes I don't even realize it until about halfway through my workout, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not even listening to anything." I went in there with the intention to, but I'm
Mhm.
not, and I'm enjoying the not. And when somebody sees you with your headphones on or whatever, they're not going to interrupt you and talk to you either. So it's like your own quiet time in your own little world. But
Yeah, like when you
yes,
get on the plane, don't talk to me. I got my headphones on.
yes, exactly. Yes.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. I love this. Okay, so my last question for you, what would you say that salon owners or yourself is doing in 2023 to go to the next level in your leadership?
Oh, I think we need to start listening to our clients.
Yeah.
I feel that last year and even going into the previous year, so 20 part of 2020, 21, and 22, I think was a huge focus on our teams, was a huge focus on revamping how you do
Mhm.
everything internally, My belief now in talking with other salon owners is we don't want to miss that client coming into our business is the reason we exist collectively. And we need to start polling our clients and finding out what is the favorite thing that they like about you. What are the things they wish were different about your business? What are the things that you're missing that you should add? And I think that putting together a panel of clients that you know will be truthful and honest with you, I think would be a great direction to go. I think getting very involved with your community is also something that we should take into consideration if you're not already doing so, because our communities are where our clients live. And, you know, they come into us because they love us. But what does that mean? And if you don't know what that means, then you need to ask, you need to find out. I think in that piece, you need to also make sure you've got a set of values for your business and values in your business that your team connects with, your team feels part of. And I feel that if in your gut as a business owner, you feel very strongly about something that you need to do, but other people around you aren't doing it that way, still go with what your gut's telling you. Because so many times we do something because, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Well, who says? I mean, for years I've heard, okay, when you have a set of values, you have 5 values, or you have 6 values, or you have 3 values. Who put the rule on that? So what we did was I collected what everyone feels are their most important values in their life, as well as being part of the salon. And we created a collective of values that when we are hiring someone and going through, this is what our values are. Is there anything that's missing on here that you would like to add? Or is there anything on here that you really don't feel like you connect with at all? And it's interesting because my thought is that you're taking people and collecting a little bit of who everybody is. It shouldn't be cookie cutter. Why should I come up with 5 values that I feel are important that you have to now fit into to be part of our team? So I think they're the ones that make up our core values. And I think that that's important that myself and my team all feel connected with those values. And then those values should transcend into your marketing. They should be part of what you're doing out there in social media. You should be utilizing those words, utilizing the visualness of some of those words in your reels. One of ours is quirky forky. Now, how we came up with that is one of our team members said we're quirky forky. And I'm like, okay, well, what's quirky forky? So we got this visual of what quirky forky looks like. So when we do a video and it's supposed to be goofy, funny, quirky, then we incorporate those kind of things into it. But making sure that who you are transcends into your social media so that your clients are seeing who you are, because where they're going to feel comfortable, where they're going to feel important, where they're going to feel listened to is where they're going to go. And are you doing a good, thorough consultation? Meaning you're asking questions, you're listening, and then you're delivering what their needs are without you telling them what they need. Because granted, they came to you for your professional opinion, but let them ask you for your professional opinion before you go telling them what it is.
Yeah, that's so good, Rowena. I love it. Yes, it's back to client, taking care of our clients. Yes. And we felt it all over the whole world, you know, the lack of client care, you know, everywhere from hotels to restaurants to any kind of retail service. And we've all felt it. We felt the brunt of it. And so we're going to stand out, those who are actually taking care of their clients and customer service. So this is absolutely huge. I love the idea of the panel. I'm stealing that idea. That's brilliant. My team's going to love it. So Rowena, any last piece of advice that you want to give salon owners before we go? And thank you for being on this podcast. And how do people get a hold of you to sign up for this 6-month coaching that they can do with you?
Excellent. Well, they can find me on Facebook under Rowena Yeager. They can also find me on Instagram. I'll give you my phone number if you want, even. It's 216-548-6288. And I will answer your phone call. Leave me a message if you do get my voicemail. And if my voicemail is full, just text me. I'm great with that. And I think the best advice that I could give is that come out from behind a wall. Get in touch with your other business owners that are in your area. Get in touch with other salon owners. Our competition is not each other. It is far from that. Our competition is way bigger in different directions, and I won't get into all of what that looks like. But I feel that as a business owner is really start taking a look at how you're going to make a difference, but put yourself out there, be vulnerable, be okay with it, and create the best relationships that you can along the way. And a piece of advice that I got from my salon sister, Gail, that I live by is never give anyone something negative to say about you. So always give people something positive to say about you. So be responsible for your choice in words. Be responsible for your choice in your texts, in your emails, in all of your communications, because what you put out there, you are going to get back tenfold.
Oh, wow. Great advice, Rowena. That spoke right to my soul. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you for being on today. We appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I have enjoyed every minute of it.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.